I stood on the cracked driveway, staring at the boxes scattered across the yard. They contained everything I owned, and I had no choice but to deal with it. My mother's only message was brief: handle it yourself. We had no choice. I had no idea that returning home after finishing my third year at college would lead to this. At 22, I was studying cybersecurity at a prestigious university, dreaming of landing a role at a top tech company. After brutal finals, sleepless nights fueled by energy drinks, the thought of coming home kept me going. I had even picked up a small gift for my MoMA cheerful mug with "Best Mom Ever" written in yellow. The bus ride from Chicago was uncomfortable, but the excitement of returning home made it bearable. I imagined the smell of my dad's pancakes and sharing the good news about my internship. Professor Williams had recommended me for a summer role at a cutting-edge lab, and I couldn't wait to tell them. But when the cab dropped me off that Tuesday morning, something felt terribly wrong. The lawn was brown and withered, the once vibrant flower garden a distant memory. The house, which had always been full of life, now looked empty. The curtains were gone, leaving the place cold and barren. My stomach sank when I saw the sold sign by the mailbox. As I approached the front steps, the weight of my duffel bag felt heavier, like I was carrying the weight of an entire lifetime. That's when I saw the cardboard boxes, stacked haphazardly, all labeled with my mom's handwriting: Emily's room. Emily's clothes, Emily's books, garbage bags stuffed with what seemed to be my old textbooks and winter coats were shoved between the boxes. It looked like everything from my life was discarded without a second thought. A piece of paper was taped to the front door, fluttering in the breeze. With trembling hands, I ripped it off and read the note that shattered everything. Handle it yourself. We had no choice, Mom, no explanation. No warning. Just those cold, dismissive words. My heart raced as I dialed my mother's number. My fingers shook so badly that I almost couldn't press the buttons. The heavy feeling in my chest threatened to explode. She picked up on the third ring, her voice sharp and impatient. "What is it, Emily?" "I'm busy." I barely held it together. "Mom, I'm standing outside. The house is sold. All my stuff is on the driveway." "What happened?" She sighed like I was an inconvenience. "We had to sell quickly. The market was good, and we couldn't pass up the offer. We're moving to Florida." "Florida? When? Why didn't you tell me?" The questions came out in a rush, but I barely processed the words. She didn't seem to care. "You're an adult now, Emily. You'll figure it out. Your aunt found a place for us in Tampa. It'll be better for your dad's arthritis." My head swam with confusion. What about my room? My things? Where am I supposed to go? Come on, you're 22 now. You should be living on your own. "Most people your age already are," she said, her tone cold and dismissive. The words hit me like a punch. "You sold my childhood home without telling me? And left all my stuff out here like trash? How is that a favor?" She laughed, a hollow sound. "Stop being dramatic. It's all in boxes. Nothing's broken. We have to go. We're meeting with a realtor about our new place." Before I could say anything else, the line went dead. I stared at my phone, feeling like I was in a nightmare. "You'll figure it out." I tried calling my dad, but it went straight to voicemail. His cheerful greeting, recorded years ago, now felt cruel. "You've reached Jim Price. Leave a message, and I'll get back to you." But I knew he wouldn't. Neither of them would. I glanced around at the neighbors peeking from their windows, probably wondering why a college student was sitting on boxes in front of a house that wasn't hers anymore. Mrs. Henderson from next door stepped out onto her porch, squinting as she tried to get a better look. The humiliation burned through me like a fire. I wasn't sure what hurt more, being abandoned or realizing my entire life had been discarded without a second thought. The burning sensation in my chest made it hard to breathe. I grabbed the heaviest box and dragged it to the sidewalk, trying to push back the tears I refused to shed. Whatever problems they had kept hidden, whatever struggles they'd been facing, it didn't matter now. They had made their decision, and that decision didn't involve me. The next few hours felt like a blur. Endless phone calls and frantic attempts to figure out what to do next. I tried reaching out to Jessica, my roommate, but she was away in Seattle with her boyfriend for the summer. My study group friends weren't any help either, most already gone for internships or back home with their families. The loneliness hit me harder than the betrayal. I'd been so focused on my studies that I never took the time to build a support system here in Sacramento. Finally, I reached Maya Patel, a girl from freshman year who had dropped out to start her own business. Danielle, oh my God, what's wrong? You sound terrible, she said when she picked up the phone. I couldn't hold back anymore. I told her everything, through sobs and shaky breaths. Maya listened quietly, making sympathetic noises, never interrupting. When I was done, there was silence on the other end for a long moment. Pack whatever you can and come over, she said finally. I have a couch and my roommate's out for 2 weeks. We'll figure things out later. Her kindness was the lifeline I didn't know I needed. I had been holding myself together out of sheer willpower, but her offer reminded me that not everyone would leave me when things got hard. That afternoon, I went through my scattered belongings, deciding what I could take and what had to stay. Old photo albums, yearbooks I'd never opened, stuffed animals that felt childish now, all went into the discard pile. I kept only what I needed. My laptop, textbooks, enough clothes for 2 weeks, and a small jewelry box my grandmother had given me before she passed. The hardest part was leaving behind the furniture from my childhood bedroom. The desk where I'd done homework for years. The bookshelf my dad had built for me when I was 12. The mirror where I'd practiced my college interview answers. All of it left behind like it never mattered. That evening, as I loaded the few things I was taking into Maya's car, I made a decision that would change my life. I pulled out my phone and blocked every number tied to my parents. Their cell phones, my Aunt Carol's number, even the work line from my dad. I deleted all their contact info, erasing any trace of the people who had raised me only to throw me away without a second thought. Maya watched me, her voice quiet. You sure about this? I didn't hesitate. They made their choice, I said, surprising myself with how steady my voice sounded. Now I'm making mine. But even as I spoke, I felt something deep down. This wasn't really the end. There was something about the way my mom had dismissed me, like I was just another problem she'd solved. I had a nagging feeling that this story wasn't over. People who abandon others often come back when they need something. And when that day came, I would be ready. Living with Maya was supposed to be temporary, but that temporary arrangement stretched into 3 months as I tried to rebuild my life from scratch. I picked up a part-time job at a local coffee shop and continued my summer classes online, all while sleeping on Maya's couch. I pretended that waking up homeless every day hadn't completely derailed my carefully planned future. The hardest part wasn't the discomfort or the financial strain. It was the constant question of why. What kind of parents sell their house and move across the country without telling their daughter? What kind of emergency forces you to leave your child behind with nothing but a sticky note and some cardboard boxes? I threw myself into work and school with a single-minded focus that started to worry Maya. You're going to burn out, she warned one night when she found me up at 2 a.m., hunched over my laptop working on both a cybersecurity project and my manager training program at the coffee shop. I can't afford to burn out, I replied without looking up. I've already lost everything once. I'm not letting that happen again. Maya sat beside me, her expression serious. Have you considered that maybe they had a good reason? I mean, I'm not defending them, but parents don't usually just disappear without a reason. Her words struck a chord, but I couldn't accept them. There's no good reason for what they did. If they were really in trouble, they could have called. They could have explained. They could have given me more than 12 hours to figure out my life. But still, Maya's words lingered in the back of my mind. Over the next few weeks, I spent my breaks at work searching for any trace of my parents online. James and Patricia Price had no social media profiles, no public records in Florida, no trail of their new life to follow. It was a random comment from my coworker, Brandon, that provided the first clue. During lunch one day, he was scrolling through Facebook when he looked up at me, confused. Hey, didn't you say your parents moved to Florida? He asked. Yeah, why? He turned his phone toward me, showing me a group photo from something called the Sacramento Community Board meeting, dated May 15th. Isn't that your dad? He asked, zooming in on the photo. I stared at the image. In the back row, barely visible but unmistakably my father, stood James Price. My heart skipped a beat. That's impossible, I whispered. They told me they'd already moved. Brandon zoomed in further. That's definitely your dad, right? Same glasses, same hairline. I didn't know what to think. But I knew one thing for sure. The truth was somewhere out there and I was going to find it. I stared at the photo until my eyes burned. My father had been in Sacramento just 3 days before I returned home. 3 days before I found my life dumped in boxes. That meant there had been no emergency sale, no desperate rush. They had planned it. They'd sat in meetings, talked with neighbors, maybe even celebrated their neat escape from responsibility. I need to make a call, I muttered to Brandon, grabbing my bag and slipping out the back of the coffee shop. With trembling hands, I unblocked my mother's number and hit dial. My heart hammered as the line rang. She answered quickly, her tone cautious but not surprised. "Emily, is everything okay?" "You lied to me," I said, my voice sharp and flat. "You were still in town when I came home. Dad was at a meeting 3 days before you left me behind." Silence stretched on the line. When she finally spoke, her voice was stripped of all pretense. "So what? The result is the same." "No," I snapped. "You had time. Time to call me. Time to arrange something better than leaving me on the street with a note. You chose this. You wanted to walk away without facing me. Oh, for heaven's sake, Emily, you're being ridiculous. We knew you'd figure something out. You always have. And look, it worked, didn't it? You're independent now, just like we wanted," I laughed bitterly. "You think making your daughter homeless is good parenting?" "We didn't make you homeless. We gave you a chance to stand on your own instead of running back every time things got hard," she said, her voice dripping with the same condescension I'd endured since childhood. "You should be thanking us." "Thanking you?" The rage I'd carried for months finally broke through. For what? For proving that the people who should love me most will abandon me when it's inconvenient? For teaching me that family means nothing if it gets in the way? You're being dramatic. We raised you for 22 years. We gave you a home, paid for your schooling. We didn't owe you anything after that. Her words stung like slaps across my face. Most kids move out at 18. We gave you 4 extra years. You gave me nothing. I choked out through tears. You took everything from me. I loved you, I trusted you, and you threw me away like garbage. Maybe this will teach you not to depend on anyone. The world doesn't owe you, Emily. The sooner you understand that, the better off you'll be. Her casual cruelty snapped something inside me. My voice went quiet, steady. You're right. The world doesn't owe me anything. And that means I don't owe you either. What does that mean? She demanded. It means I'm done. With you, with Dad, with the lie that we're still a family. You wanted me to be independent? Congratulations. You got your wish. Don't call me. Don't text me. Don't send cards or messages through relatives. You wanted me gone. Now I am. You're being childish. I ended the call and immediately blocked her number again. Then my father's. Then every relative who might try to guilt me into reconciling. One by one, I deleted the voicemails I had saved from happier times. I erased the family photos from my social media and stripped away every trace of the people who had raised me, only to discard me when it suited them. Maya found me 20 minutes later, still shaking in the alley. What happened? You ran out of there like the place was on fire. I told her everything. The photo, the call, the cold way my mother admitted it had all been planned. Maya's expression hardened. They're heartless. Normal parents don't do this. They don't plan an abandonment and then pretend it's some kind of gift. I swallowed hard, my throat raw. I keep wondering what I did wrong. If I was a bad daughter somehow. But I can't think of anything. I worked hard. I stayed out of trouble. I called them every week. I loved them. Maya pulled me into a fierce hug. And that's exactly why it's not your fault. You were a good daughter to bad parents. Some people just shouldn't have kids, her words sank deep. Something inside me shifted as we walked back into the coffee shop. The part of me that had been hoping for reconciliation, the part that kept making excuses for them, finally died. I knew who they were now, and I was ready to accept it. That revelation didn't crush me, it fueled me. Instead of drowning in self-pity, I turned my anger into focus. I applied for every scholarship, every grant, every work-study position I could find. I took extra shifts at the cafe and started freelancing cybersecurity work for small businesses. By August, I had saved enough to rent a studio apartment near campus. It was small, barely big enough for a bed and desk, but it was mine. A space no one could take away or sell without warning. Maya helped me carry in the same handful of belongings I had rescued months before. As I set down the last box, a strange calm settled over me. I was finally standing on my own, not because they forced me, but because I chose to. You sure you don't want to wait for something bigger? Maya asked, her gaze sweeping over the cramped little studio. This is perfect, I said, setting my laptop on the battered desk I'd found for $50. It's exactly what I need. What I needed was complete independence. I threw myself into my coursework with a new kind of focus, tackling every cybersecurity assignment like my life depended on it. Because in a way, it did. Each skill, certification, and professional connection became another layer of armor against ever being vulnerable again. Professor Williams noticed the shift almost immediately. "Emily, your penetration testing project is graduate-level work," he said after class one day. "Have you thought about accelerating your program?" I had been thinking about it. How fast could I finish? If you take summer classes and overload each term, you could graduate a full year early. It's intense, but based on your performance? He shrugged. I think you'd manage. That night, I drew up an aggressive plan. 6 courses per semester instead of 4, internships during every break, and no social life to speak of. It would be brutal, but it would also mean entering the job market a year ahead of my peers with less debt and a lot more distance from the people who had thrown me away. Everything went according to plan until November. I was deep into a difficult cryptography assignment when my phone buzzed with a notification I hadn't seen in months. A message request from someone named Patricia Green. "Emily, sweetheart. I know you're angry, but we need to talk. Please call me. We're in trouble, and you're the only one who can help." I stared at the message, my heart hammering. Part of me wanted to delete it instantly and keep my walls intact. But another part of McColder, harder, was curious. What kind of trouble had driven her to reach out after months of silence? I took a screenshot and sent it to Maya with a single question mark. Her reply came back immediately. "Oh, hell no! Don't even think about it." But I was thinking about it. Not because I wanted to help them. That ship had sailed. But because for the first time since they'd left me, I had the power. They needed something from me. After months of being discarded, the idea of being needed felt intoxicating. I opened my laptop and started digging, using every tool I'd learned to trace what 2 middle-aged retirees in Florida could possibly be mixed up in. And what I found was worse than I'd imagined. Public records showed they'd purchased an $800,000 condo in a gated community, nearly triple what they'd sold our old house for. They'd bought a new luxury car and taken several cruises, according to posts on my cousin's social media. But the real shock was in the recent developments. 3 months earlier, my father had been arrested for investment fraud. He'd been running a Ponzi scheme targeting elderly neighbors with promises of impossible cryptocurrency returns. The scheme collapsed when too many investors tried to cash out at once. Suddenly, my mother's desperate message made sense. They weren't in trouble. They were staring down federal charges. And they needed me, the cybersecurity expert daughter they'd thrown away, to help them hide stolen money or tamper with evidence. A cold satisfaction settled over me. They had abandoned me to chase easy money and a luxury lifestyle, and now that it had all fallen apart, they expected me to rescue them. The audacity was breathtaking. I crafted my response carefully. "I'm sorry to hear you're having difficulties. Unfortunately, I'm very busy with my studies and work. I'm sure you'll figure something out. You always said I needed to be more independent. Perhaps it's time for you to follow your own advice." I hit send and blocked her immediately. Within hours, friend requests poured in. From my father, my aunt, and 2 people I didn't recognize. Probably family friends recruited to reach me. I blocked them all without opening their messages. The next week brought a flood of calls from unknown numbers, emails to my university account, even a certified letter forwarded from my old address. I ignored everything, focusing instead on my final projects and job applications. Maya watched my quiet rejection of their pleas with open admiration. "You're really not going to help them?" "Help them do what?" I asked. "Hide stolen money? Obstruct justice?" She shook her head. "You're ice cold," I shrugged. "They taught me family doesn't owe each other anything. I'm just following the lesson." The breaking point came in December, just weeks before my early graduation. I was crossing campus after my last exam when a woman approached me near the library. She was middle-aged, professionally dressed, and carried herself with calm authority. "Emily Green?" she asked, her badge flashing as she opened it. "I'm Agent Sandra Martinez with the FBI. I'd like to speak with you about your parents." My blood went cold, but I kept my voice even. "I don't have parents." Agent Martinez lifted an eyebrow. "I understand you're estranged, but our records show James and Patricia Green claimed you as a dependent on their tax returns through last year. They've also listed you as an emergency contact on several financial documents." "That's news to me," I said flatly. "I haven't spoken to them since last summer." Her expression didn't change. Yet they're telling investigators their daughter is managing their finances remotely. They claim you have access to several offshore accounts being used to hide assets. I stared at her. That's a lie. They've provided your contact information and university records as proof of your technical capabilities. The rage hit me so hard I almost saw red at the edges of my vision. They hadn't just abandoned me, they were trying to drag me down with them. Even after cutting them out of my life, they were still looking for ways to destroy it. I need to see identification, I said, pulling out my phone. And then I need to call my attorney. Agent Martinez blinked. You have an attorney? I will in about 5 minutes. I scrolled to the legal aid number my university had given out for emergencies. If my parents were claiming I helped them commit federal crimes, I needed representation immediately. The investigation that followed was the most terrifying month of my life, but also the most vindicating. Every document I handed over, every email, every time-stamped login proved my innocence. And at the same time, it built an airtight case against them. When the verdict came down, 15 years in federal prison for both of them, I felt no sadness, no guilt, only relief. Relief that I would never have to see them again. 6 months later, I crossed the stage at graduation, finishing my degree ahead of schedule. I had a diploma in my hand, a job offer from Nexora Labs waiting, and an apartment that was mine alone. In that moment, I realized something startling. Their betrayal, their cruelty, had forged me into someone they could never hurt again. Someone who could never be abandoned. That was my story. And even now, a part of me is still living in that moment. If you've ever been through something like this, or even if you haven't, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Drop a comment below and tell me what you would have done. And if this story meant something to you, go ahead and subscribe. You never know. The next story might change how you see the world.